All right, lots of sound checking completed. We're ready to go. The four ends of human existence, viz., worldly riches, merit, religious merit, enjoyment, and liberation, the reasoned exposition of jnana, knowledge of God in his absolute formless aspect, and vijnana, knowledge of qualified divinity both with and without form, the 9 sentiments of poetry. Footnote. The 9 sentiments of poetry are 1. Sringara, the erotic sentiment or the sentiment of love. 2. Hasya, the humorous sentiment. 3. Karuna, the pathetic sentiment. 4. Vira, the heroic sentiment. 5. Rodra, the sentiment of wrath or fury. 6. Bhayanaka, the sentiment of terror. 7. Bibhatsa, the sentiment of disgust. 8. Santa, the sentiment of quietism. And 9. Adbhuta, the marvelous sentiment. Back to the text. And the references to japa, the muttering of mystic formulae, austerity, yoga, contemplative union with God, and detachment from the world. All these represent the charming aquatic creatures of this lake. Eulogies on virtuous men, pious souls, and the name of God. These correspond to water birds of various kinds. The assemblages of saints referred to herein are the mango groves hemming the lake on all sides, and piety has been likened to the vernal season. The exposition of various types of devotion and the references to forbearance, compassion, and sense control represent the canopies of creepers. Even so, mind control, the 5 yamas, or forms of self-restraint, viz., non-violence, truthfulness, non-thieving, continence, and non-acquisition of property. The 5 niyamas, or religious vows, viz., those of external and internal purity, contentment, austerity, study of sacred books, or repetition of the divine name, and self-surrender to God, are the blossoms of these creepers. Spiritual enlightenment is their fruit, and loving devotion to the feet of Sri Hari constitutes the sap of this fruit of spiritual enlightenment. So declare the Vedas. The various other episodes forming part of this narrative are the birds of different colors, such as the parrot and the cuckoo. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The thrill of joy that one experiences whilst listening to this narrative represents the flower gardens, orchards, and groves, and the delight one feels is the sporting of birds, while a pure mind is the gardener who waters the garden. with the streaming drops of love through the charming jars of eyes. Those who carefully recite this poem, they alone are the vigilant guardians of this lake. And those men and women who reverently hear it ever are the great gods exercising jurisdiction over this Manasarabora lake. Sensual wretches are the accursed herons and crows who never approach the lake, for here there are no varied talks of the pleasures of sense, corresponding to snails, frogs, and the moss. That is why poor crows and herons in the form of lustful men lack the heart to visit this place. For there is much difficulty in the getting to this place, and it is not possible to reach it without the grace of Sri Rama. Bad company, which is so pernicious, constitutes a terribly rough road, and the words of such evil companions are so many tigers, lions, and serpents. The various occupations and the entanglements of the domestic life are huge mountains, which is so difficult to cross over. Infatuation, arrogance, and pride are so many inaccessible woods, and sophisms of the various kinds are frightful streams. The Ramacharitas Manasa is most inaccessible to those who lack provisions for the journey in the shape of faith, who do not enjoy the company of saints, and who have no love for Sri Raghunatha. Even if someone makes his way to it, undergoing so much hardship, he is forthwith attacked by a ague in the shape of drowsiness. The numbing cold is the shape of the stupor overtakes his heart, so that the unfortunate fellow is deprived of a dip even after reaching there. Finding himself unable to take a plunge into the lake or to drink from it, he returns with a feeling of arrogance. And if someone comes to inquire about the lake, he tries to convince him by vilifying it. All these obstacles do not, however, deter him whom Sri Rama regards with overwhelming kindness. He alone reverently bathes in the lake and thus escapes the threefold agony of the fiercest kind. I have a footnote here. The three kinds of agony referred to above are the inflicted by other living beings, that proceeding from natural causes, and that caused by bodily or mental agony. The three types of listeners referred to here may be understood to mean liberated souls, seekers of liberation, and sensually minded men. Back to the text. Those men who cherish ideal devotion to the feet of Sri Rama never forsake this lake. Let him who would bathe in this lake, brother, diligently practice satsanga, association with saints. Having seen the said Manasa lake with the mind's eye and taken dip into it, the poet's intellect got purged of all his dross. The heart was flooded with joy and exhilaration, and a torrent of love and rapture welled up from it. Thence flowed a stream of beautiful poetry, carrying the water of Sri Rama's blissful glory. Sarayu is the name of this river, in the form of this narrative, which is the very fountain of pure bliss. The prevalent viewpoint and the viewpoint of the Vedas, these represent its two charming banks. This holy stream, Sarayu, issuing as it does from the beautiful Manasa lake, uproots in its course all the impurities of the Kali age, whether in the form of tiny blades of grass or of mighty trees. The assemblage of three types of listeners are like the towns, villages, and cities on both the banks of this river, and the congregation of saints is the incomparable Ayoja, which is the fountain of all auspicious blessings. The beautiful Sarayu, in the form of Sri Rama's fair renown, joined the heavenly Ganga of devotion to Sri Rama. The latter was joined again by the charming stream of the mighty Son in the form of the material glory of Sri Rama with his younger brother Lakshmana. Intervening the two streams of Sarayu and Son shines the celestial stream of devotion, blended with knowledge and dispassion. This triple stream, which scares away the threefold agony referred to above, headed towards the ocean of Sri Rama's divine personality. With its source in the Manasa lake and united with the celestial river Ganga, the Sarayu of Sri Rama's fame will purify the mind of the pious souls who listen to it. While the charming episodes interspersed here and there are the groves and gardens, as it were, adjoining the riverbanks. Do you want me to keep going?
I can keep going. The bridegroom's party in the wedding of goddess Uma, Parvati, and the great Lord Shiva are the numberless aquatic creatures of various kinds. The rejoicings of felicitations that attend the advent of Sri Rama, the chief of Raghus, represent the charm of the eddies and waves. The childlike sports of the four divine brothers are the numerous lotus flowers of varied colours, while the stock of merits of King Dasharatha and his consorts and the court represent the bees and water birds. The fascinating story of Sita's choice, marriage, is the delightful charm surrounding the river. The numerous pertinent questions are the boat on the river, while the judicious replies to the same are the skilled boatmen. The conversation that follows the narration of the story is the crowd of travellers moving along the riverbanks. The wrath of Parasurama, the lord of Burgas, represents the furious current of this river, while Sri Rama's soft words are the strongly built ghatas on the banks. The festivities connected with the wedding of Sri Rama and his brothers represent the graceful swell in the river, which is a source of delight to all. Those who rejoice and experience a thrill of joy in narrating or hearing the story are the lucky souls who take an exhilarating dip in the river. The auspicious preparations that were gone through in connections with the installation of Sri Rama as the Yuvaraja, Prince Regent, represent, as it were, the crowds of bathers assembled at the riverbank on a sacred occasion. Karke's evil counsel represents the moss on the bank, which brought a seriously a serious calamity in its wake. The story of Bharata, which wards off all calamities, is a congregational muttering of sacred formulae carried on at the river bank, while the references to the corruptions of the Kali age and to the evil propensities of wicked souls represent the scum on the water as well as the herons and crows living by the riverside. The river of Sri Rama's glory is delightful during all the 6 seasons. It is exceedingly charming and holy at all times. The wedding of goddess Parvati, the daughter of Himavan, with Lord Shiva represents Hemanta, or the cold season, while the festival connected with the Lord's advent represents the delightful Shishira, or chilly season. The story of the preparations for Sri Rama's wedding constitute the vernal season. Footnote: the months of Margashirsha and Pusha, corresponding to November, Pusha. Corresponding to November and December, constitute the cold season. Marga and Falguna, corresponding roughly to January and February, constitutes the chilly season. The months of Chaitra and Vishaka, corresponding roughly to March and April, constitute the vernal season. Jyeshtha and Ashada, corresponding roughly to May and June, constitute the hot weather. Shravana and Bhadrapada, corresponding to July and August, constitute the rainy season, and Ashvina Kartika, corresponding roughly to September and October, constitute the autumnal season. Back to the text, if I can find it. Hang on, put the light up. Okay. The season, the king of all seasons, which abounds in joy and felicity, while Sri Rama's departure for the forest constitutes the oppressive hot weather, and the tale of his wanderings represent the blazing sun and hot winds. The terrible conflict with the demons represent the rainy season, which constituted a veritable blessing to the paddy crop in the form of gods, while the prosperity attending Sri Rama's reign, his politeness and glory represent the cloudless, delightful, and charming autumn. The recital of the virtues of Sita, the crest jewel of faithful wives, constitutes the excellence of the transparent and incomparable water, and Bharata's amiability represents its coolness, which is uniform at all times and beyond description. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah. The way the four brothers look at one another, talk to one another, meet and love one another, their mirth and their ideal brotherhood. These constitute the sweetness and fragrance of the water. My intense longing, supplication, and humility represent the not inconsiderable lightness of this pure and holy water. This marvelous water heals by the mere hearing, quenches the thirst of desire, and washes the scum of the mind. This water nourishes true love for Sri Rama and drives away all the sins of the Kali age, as well as the feeling of self-deprecation resulting therefrom. It relieves the fatigue of transmigration, graffiti's gratification itself, and puts an end to sin, sorrow, indigence, and error. It wipes out lust, anger, pride, and infatuation, and enhances pure wisdom and dispassion. By reverently bathing in it and drinking from it, all traces of sin and remorse are wiped off from the heart. Those who have not washed their heart with this water are wretches that have been duped by the Kali age. These creatures, wander in pursuit of sensuous pleasures, will come to grief, even as a thirsty deer runs after a mirage, mistaking it for real water, and returns miserable. Having enumerated the virtues of this excellent water to be the best of his intellectual ability, and bathed his mind in it, and remembering Goddess Bhavani and Lord Sankara, the poet Tulsidasa narrates the beautiful narrative. Installing in my heart the lotus feet of Sri Rama, and thus secure in his grace, I now proceed to relate the charming story of the meeting of the two great sages, Yajnavalkya and Bharadvaja. The sage Bharadvaja lives in Prayaga. He is extremely devoted to the feet of Sri Rama, a great ascetic and an embodiment of self-restraint, composure of mind, and compassion. He is highly advanced on the spiritual path. In the month of Magha, approximately mid-January to February, when the sun enters the sign of Capricorn, everyone visits the chief of holy places, Prayaga. Troops of gods and demons, kinnaras, demigods, and men all devoutly bathe in the triple stream of the Ganga, Yamuna, and Sarasvati. They worship the lotus feet of God Vindhumadeva, the presiding deity of Prayaga, and the touch of the immortal banyan tree sends a thrill into their limbs. The hermitage of Bharadvaja, his most sacred spot, exceedingly charming and attractive even to great hermits, and is the haunt of sages and seers who go to bathe at the holiest of holy places. At daybreak, they all perform their ablutions with religious fervor and then converse together on the virtues of Sri Hari. They discuss the nature of Brahma, the Supreme Eternal, the precepts of religion, and the classification of fundamental entities, and expatiate on devotion to the Lord, coupled with topics on spiritual enlightenment and dispassion. In this way, they bathe for the whole month of Magha, and then they return to their respective hermitages. There is great rejoicing every year, and having performed their ablutions while the sun stays in Capricorn, the hosts of sages disperse. Having bathed on one occasion for the whole period of the sun's stay in Capricorn, when all the great sages had left, each for his respective hermitage, Bharadvaja clasped the feet of the supremely enlightened saint Yajnavalkya to detain him. He reverently washed the latter's lotus feet and seated him on the most sacred asana, sitting mat, and extolling his fair renown after duly adoring him, Bharadvaja spoke in a saintly and reverential tone. A grave doubt haunts my mind, holy sir, and the whole mystery of the Vedas stands revealed to you. I am afraid and ashamed to utter the doubt, and I lose a great opportunity if I do not express it. The saints lay down the rule, and the Vedas as well as the Puranas and sages too loudly proclaim that pure wisdom cannot dawn in the heart should one keep anything concealed for one's spiritual preceptor. Remembering this, I disclose my delusion, dispel it, taking pity on this servant and my Lord. The saints as well as the Puranas and the Upanishads too declare that the potency of the name Rama is unlimited. The immortal Lord Shiva, who is the fountain of qualities, gunas, and is a repository of wisdom, incessantly repeats it. There are four broad divisions of living beings in the world, such of them as die in the holy cities of Kashi, Varanasi, attain the highest state. This too marks the glory of Sri Rama's name, the chief of sages. For it is this very name that Lord Shiva mercifully imparts to the dying Jiva in Kashi. I beseech you, my Lord, who that Rama is, pray, explain it to me, O repository of compassion. One such Rama is the Prince of Ayodhya, whose exploits are known throughout the world. Infinite was his desolation due to the abduction of his wife, and flying into a rage, he killed Ravana in battle. Is it this very Rama, my lord, or someone else whose name Shiva ever repeats? You are an embodiment of truth and omniscient. So ponder well and enlighten me with your exposition. Tell me in detail, my master, the narrative whereby my overwhelming perplexity may be overcome. Yajnavalkya smilingly said, the glory of Sri Raghunatha is already known to you. You are a devotee of Sri Rama in thought, word, and deed. I have come to know your ingenuity. You wish to hear an account of the subtle virtues of Sri Rama. That is why you have questioned me, as if you were quite an ignoramus. Listen then with devout attention, my child, while I narrate the beautiful story of Sri Rama. Appalling ignorance is the gigantic demon Mahishura, so called because he was endowed with the form of a buffalo. While the narrative of Sri Rama is the dreaded Kalika, who made short work of the demon. The story of Sri Rama is like the moonbeams that are taken in, absorbed by Kakura bird in the form of saints. A similar doubt was expressed by no less a personage than goddess Parvati, and the great god Shiva then expounded the matter in detail. I shall repeat now, to the best of my comprehension, the dialogue between Uma and Lord Shiva. Hear, O sage, the time and the occasion of the dialogue, your delusion will be resolved. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. It seems like we're in a bit more of a story now.
Getting into the area of Sri Rama reciting the story to Uma.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know if it was just me concentrating more, but it seems like there's more differences in our versions, but I guess you see what you think as I read. Oh no, now I've lost the spot. Did you finish that paragraph? Is it?
It should be starting along the lines of once upon a time.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, in the age of Treta, Lord Shiva called on the Jar-born sage Agastya. His consort, goddess Sati, the mother of the universe, accompanied him. The sage worshipped him, knowing him to be the universal Lord. The great sage narrated at length the story of Rama, and Lord Mahesha listened to it with extreme delight. The sage then inquired about devotion to Hari, and Shambho discoursed on it, finding in the sage a fit recipient. Thus narrating and hearing the tale of Sri Rama's virtue, the Lord of Kailasa, Shiva, spent some days there. Finally, asking leave of the sage, the slayer of the demon Tripura, Shankara, proceeded to his home, Mount Kailasa, with Daksha's daughter Sati. During those very days, with a view to relieving the burden of the earth, Sri Hari had descended in the line of King Raghu, renouncing his right to the throne at the word of his father Dasharatha. The immortal Lord was wandering in the Dandaka forest in the garb of an ascetic. Lord Hara, Shiva, kept pondering as he went. How can I obtain a sight of him? The Lord has bodied himself forth secretly, and if I visit him, everyone will know who he is. In Shankara's heart there was a great tumult. Sati, however, had no inkling of this secret. His mind, says Tulasidasa, apprehended lest the secret might be disclosed while the temptation of obtaining a sight of the Lord made his eyes wistful. Ravana, the demon king of Lanka, had sought from Brahma the boon of death at the hands of a human foe, and the Lord would have the words of Brahma come true. If I do not go to meet him, I shall regret it. I shall ever regret it. Shiva pondered, but found no solution to the puzzle. The Lord was thus lost in a reverie. Meanwhile, the vile Ravana, who had no less than 10 heads, took with him the demon Maricha, who forthwith assumed the illusory form of a deer. The fool Ravana carried off King Videha's daughter Sita by fraud. The Lord's real might was not known to him. Having killed the antelope Sri Hari returned with his brother Lakshmana, and his eyes were filled with tears when he saw the empty hermitage. The Lord of Raghus felt distress at the loss of a mortal man, and the two brothers roamed about in the woods in search of her. He who knows neither union nor separation showed unmistakable signs of grief born of separation. Exceedingly mysterious are the ways of the Lord of Raghus. The supremely wise alone can comprehend them, and the dull-witted in their height of folly imagines something quite different. On that very occasion, Shambhu saw Sri Rama, and excessive joy of an extraordinary type welled up in his heart. He feasted his eyes on that ocean of beauty, but he did not disclose his identity, as he knew it was no appropriate occasion for the same. The destroyer of Cupid, Shiva, passed on exclaiming, "Glory to the Redeemer of the universe, who is all truth, consciousness, and bliss." As Shiva went on his way with Sati, the all-merciful Lord was repeatedly thrilled with joy. When Sati beheld Shambhu in this state, a grave doubt arose in her mind. Shankara is a lord of the universe himself and deserves universal adoration. Gods, men, and sages all bow their heads to him. Yet he made obeisance to this prince, referring to him as the Supreme Being who is all truth, consciousness, and bliss. He was enraptured to behold his beauty and felt an upsurge of emotion in his heart, which he is unable to control even to this moment. The Supreme Eternal, which is all-pervading, unbegotten, without parts, free from desire, beyond Maya, and beyond all distinction, and which not even the Vedas can comprehend, can it assume the shape of a man? Can I keep going?
I can, yeah.
You good?
Yeah, there are slight differences in the translation, but
It's still the same.
it
It just
hasn't.
seemed to be more.
When when listening to you read and I'm reading my translation, although there's slight differences, it is telling the same. Each paragraph is telling the same story.
Yeah.
Slight differences in maybe using the word Shankara instead of Shiva or vice versa.
Yeah.
Little things like that. But yeah. There doesn't seem to be enough of a change in translation that it's a completely different story.
No.
Shall I go on then?
Yeah. Yep.
Even Vishnu, who takes a human form for the sake of gods, is omniscient, like the slayer of Tripura Shiva. Can he wander in search of his consort like an ignorant man? He who is a repository of knowledge, the Lord of Sri, the goddess of prosperity, and the slayer of demons. The words of Shiva, too, cannot be untrue. Everyone knows that he is all-knowing. Thus, her mind was filled with an interminable series of doubts. Her heart could not be pacified by any means. Although Bhavani did not say anything openly, Lord Hara, who is the inner dweller of all, came to know everything. Look here, Sati, the womanly traits are foremost in you. You should never harbor such a doubt in your mind. He is no other than Sri Raghavira, my beloved deity Ishta, whose narrative was sung by sage Agastya, devotion in whom was the subject of the talk I gave to him, and whom illuminated sages ever wait upon. He who has bodied himself forth as the Lord Sri Rama for the sake of his devotees is no other than the Supreme Eternal. Thank you. Who is all pervading and ever free, who is the ruler of all the worlds and the Lord of Maya, whom illuminated sages, yogis, mystics, and siddhas, adepts, constantly meditate upon with their sinless mind, and his glory is sung by the Vedas as well as the Puranas and other scriptures in terms as not this, not this. Can I read that paragraph again?
Sure. Yeah.
feel like I got lost reading it as I was reading it.
Yep, that's fine.
He who has bodied himself forth as Lord Sri Rama for the sake of his devotees is not other than the Supreme Eternal, who is all pervading and ever free, who is the ruler of all the worlds and Lord of Maya, whom illuminated sages, yogis, mystics, and siddhas, adepts, constantly meditate upon him with their sinless mind, and his glory is sung by the Vedas as well as the Puranas and other scriptures in terms as not this, not this. Although Lord Shiva repeated this time and again, his exhortations made no impact on the mind of Sati. Then the great Lord Shiva smilingly said, realizing in his heart the potency of Sri Hari's Maya. If you have the grave doubt in your mind, why not go and verify the fact yourself? I shall wait in the shade of this banyan tree till you come back to me. Using your dispassionate judgment, you should resort to some device whereby the stupefying doubt born of your ignorance may be rectified. Thus obtaining leave of Shiva, Sati set forth. She racked her brains to decide what device she should adopt in order to test the divinity of Sri Rama. On this side, Shiva did not perceive the welfare of Daksha's daughter Sati. When her doubt did not yield even to my exhortations, he said to himself, it seems the stars are unpropitious to her and the result will not be good. After all, whatever Sri Rama has willed must come to pass. Why should one add to the complication by indulging in further speculation? So saying, Lord Shiva began to repeat the name of Sri Hari, while Sati proceeded to the spot where all the blissful Lord Sri Rama was. Excuse me for a second.
Yeah, it's fine.
After all, whatever Sri Rama has willed must come to pass. Why should one add to the complication by indulging in further speculation? So saying, Lord Shiva began to repeat the name of Sri Hari, while Sati proceeded to the spot where the all-blissful Lord Sri Rama was. After many an anxious thought, Sati assumed the form of Sita and moved ahead on the same route along which the ruler of men, Sri Rama was coming. When Lakshmana saw Sati in her disguise, he was astonished and much puzzled. He was tongue-tied and looked very grave. The sagacious brother Lakshmana was aware of Lord Raghunatha's glory. All perceiving and the inner controller of all, the Lord of gods, Sri Rama, took no time in detecting the false appearance of Sati. Sri Rama is the same omniscient Lord whose very thought wipes out ignorance. Sati sought to praise deception even on him. See how low down the nature of a woman is, extolling in his heart the potency of his Maya, delusive power. Sri Rama smilingly addressed her in a mild tone. Folded hands, he first made obeisance to her, mentioning his name along with his father's. He then asked her the whereabouts of Lord Shiva and wondered what made her roam about all alone in the forest. Sati felt very much abashed when she heard these soft yet significant words of Sri Rama. She turned towards the great Lord Shiva with a feeling of awe and was very much dejected at heart. I heeded not the word of Shankara and imposed my own ignorance on Sri Rama. What reply shall I give to my Lord now? The agony of her heart was most terrible. Sri Rama perceived that Sati had got unnerved. He, therefore, revealed to her a part of his glory. As she went on her way, Sati beheld a strange phenomenon. Sri Rama was going ahead of her along with his consort Sita and his younger brother Lakshmana. She looked back, and there too she saw the Lord with his brother and Sita in attractive garb. Whichever way she turned her eyes, there was the Lord Sri Rama, enthroned and illuminated, siddhas and sages ministering to him. Sati saw several sets of Shiva, Brahma and Vishnu, each set possessing a glory infinitely greater than that of the others. She also beheld a whole host of gods bowing at Sri Rama's feet and waiting upon him in their different garb. She further perceived innumerable satis, consorts of Shiva, consorts of Brahma, and Lakshmis, consorts of Vishnu, and peerless in beauty, all peerless in beauty. They conformed in their appearance to the garb in which Brahma and the other gods appeared. Each separate vision of Sri Rama was attended by a whole host of gods with their feminine counterparts, as well as by the whole animate and inanimate creation with its multitudinous species. But while the gods who adored Lord Sri Raghunatha appeared in diverse garb, the appearance of Sri Rama was the same in every case. Although Sati saw many Ramas with as many Sitas, the garb did not differ. Seeing the same Raghunatha, the same Lakshmana, and the same Sita, Sati was struck with great awe. Her heart quivered, and she lost all consciousness of her body. Closing her eyes, she sat down on the wayside. When she opened her eyes and gazed once more, the daughter of Daksha, Sati, saw nothing there. Repeatedly bowing her head and at the feet of Sri Rama, she proceeded to the spot where Lord Shiva was. When she came near, Lord Shiva smilingly inquired if all was well with her, and then said, "Tell me now the whole truth. How did you test Sri Rama?" Having realized the greatness of Sri Raghuvira, Sati, in her awe, concealed the truth from Shiva. "I made no test, my lord. I made my obeisance just like you. What? You said what you said, what you said cannot be untrue. I am fully convinced in my heart. Lord Shiva then looked within by contemplation and came to know all that Sati had done. Again he bowed his head to the delusive power of Sri Rama that had prompted Sati to tell a lie. What has been preordained by the will of Sri Hari must have its way, the all-wise Shiva thought within himself. Sati had assumed the disguise of Sita. This made Shiva very much disconsolate at heart. If I continue to love Sati as my consort, as hitherto, the cult of devotion will be lost, and it will be an act of impropriety on my part to do so. Sati is too chaste to be abandoned, and it will be a great sin to love her any more as a spouse. The great Lord Shiva uttered not a word aloud, although there was great agony in his heart. Then Shiva bowed his head at the feet of Lord Sri Rama. And as soon as he invoked Sri Rama, the idea came to his mind that he should have no relation with Sati as husband and wife, so long as she was in that body. Shiva resolved accordingly. And having so resolved, the stable-minded Lord Shankara proceeded towards his abode, Mount Kailash, with his mind fixed on Sri Raghunatha. Even as he moved forward, a charming celestial voice from the heaven was heard. Glory to the great Lord Shiva, who has so staunchly upheld the cause of devotion. Who else, other than you, could take such a vow? You are a devotee of Sri Rama, as also the all-powerful Lord at the same time. Sati felt troubled at heart when she heard the heavenly voice. She addressed Shiva in a faltering voice. Tell me, O merciful Lord, what vow have you taken? You are an embodiment of truth and compassionate to the afflicted. Even though Sati inquired in ways more than one, slayer of the demon Tripura, Shiva, spoke not a word. Sati concluded that the omniscient Lord had come to know everything. I had tried to deceive Shiva. Woman is silly and senseless by nature, she realized. Even water, when mixed with milk, smells as milk. Look at the unifying process of love. The water, however, is separated from the milk, and the taste also disappears the moment lemon is added into it. And sorry, let me repeat that. The water, however, is separated from the milk, and the taste also disappears the moment lemon is added into it in the form of falsehood. Sati felt perturbed in her heart at the thought of what she had done. The extent of her anxiety could neither be gauged nor described. She realized that Lord Shiva is a supremely unfathomable ocean of mercy. Hence, he did not openly declare her fault. From the attitude of Shiva, however, she judged that the Lord had abandoned her and felt great agony in her heart. Conscious of her guilt, she could not say anything, but all the while her heart smoldered like a furnace. Perceiving the sad look of Sati, Shiva narrated beautiful episodes in order to relieve her mind, relating various legends while on his way. The Lord of the universe, Shiva, reached Kailasha. Then, recalling his vow, Shiva sat down there under a banyan tree in the yogic pose known as Padmasana. the lotus pose. Lord Shiva communed with his own self and passed into an unbroken and indefinitely long samadhi or trance. Then Sati dwelt in Kailash, her mind sorrowing grievously. Nobody knew anything about what was going on in her mind, but the days hung heavily on her, like so many yugas or ages. The grief that preyed on Sati's mind was heavy and ever new. She did not know when she should be able to tide over the ocean of sorrow. I slighted Sri Raghunatha and again took my husband's words to be untrue. Providence has repaid me for my follies and has done only that which I deserved. Now, O God, it does not behove you that you should make me survive, even after alienating me from Shankara. The anguish of her heart was beyond words. The sane lady invoked the presence of Sri Rama in her heart and addressed him thus. If they refer to you as a compassionate to the afflicted, then if the Vedas have glorified you, you as a dispeller of sorrow, I beseech you with folded hands, O Lord, that I may speedily get rid of this body of mine. If I have any devotion to the feet of Shiva, and if I am true to my vow in thought, word, and deed, then, O all-perceiving Lord, listen to me and speedily devise some plan whereby I may die and get rid of this unbearable calamity without much strain. Sati, the daughter of Daksha, thus felt very miserable. Her deep agony was terrible beyond words. When 87,000 years elapsed, the immortal Shiva emerged from his trance. Shiva started repeating the name of Sri Rama. Then Sati came to know that the Lord of the universe had come to the waking state. She went and bowed to the feet of Shiva. Shankara gave her a seat in front of himself. He began to narrate the delightful stories of Sri Hari. Meanwhile, Daksha, Sati's father, had come to be anointed the Lord of created beings. On careful consideration, the Creator, Brahma, found Daksha qualified in every way and appointed him as the supreme Lord of created beings. When Daksha attained this high position, the pride of his heart knew no bounds. Never was a creature born in this world whom power did not intoxicate. Daksha got together all the sages and they began to perform a big sacrifice. All the gods who obtain a share of the oblations offered at a sacrifice were cordially invited to attend. I think it's your turn to take over, man.
Yeah, that's good. Can I just pause there for a second? Just, I was a bit confused with it was Sati.
It's still recording.
Yeah, no, that's all good. Like Sati and Sita, like, I guess I just got a bit confused with how it was who. I don't know how well you're following it, but like, I'm trying to remember. I should have marked the page. How far back was it? I guess I just don't really know who Sati is. You think
So,
you can tell me who Sati is?
yeah, so she is Shiva's consort. So
Yeah.
a form of Gosh, what's the name? I'm wanting to say Parvati.
The
Am I right?
Saraswati?
But,
No. Um,
oh gosh, my brain.
all right. Yeah, sorry, I should have marked the section a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, she's one of the incarnations or the versions of his.
Yeah.
Yeah, female half or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So she's part of Shiva.
Yeah, I mean, his
Right?
consort is
Yeah.
his consort is the
Yeah.
female partner, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
just
cool.
trying to remember the name of. It's my brain's just gone dead. I just can't even think of like the other names of versions of her. But yeah. Yeah.
That'll come to you. It's all good.
Yeah.
I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Kinaras, a species of demigods, Nagas and Siddhas, a class of celestial beings, and Gandharvas, celestial songsters, and the whole host of gods proceed to the sacrifice along with their wives. All the gods, with the exception of Vishnu, Viranchi, the creator, and the great Lord Shiva, set out in their aerial cars. Sati beheld beautiful aerial cars of various patterns coursing through the air. Celestial damsels were singing melodious strains which intruded upon the ears of ascetics and broke their meditation. When Sati inquired about the stir in the air, Shiva explained the whole thing. She was somewhat delighted to hear of the sacrifice commenced by her father and thought of making it an excuse for staying a few days with her father in case the great Lord Shiva granted her leave. Repudiation by her lord tormented her heart not a little, but conscious of her guilt, she would not utter a word. At last Sati spoke in a charming voice tinged with awe, misgiving, and affection. There is great rejoicing at my father's house, O Lord. If you grant me leave, I would fain go and see it, O storehouse of compassion. The Lord Shiva replied, your suggestion is good and has commended itself to me as well. But the anomaly is that your father has sent no invitation to us. Daksha has invited all his other daughters, but because of the grudge he bears to us, you too have been ignored. In the court of Brahma, he once took offense at our behavior. That is why he insults us even now. If you go there uninvited, Bhavani, all decorum, affection and honor will be cast to the winds. It is no doubt the true one should call on one's friend, master, father, or teacher without waiting for a formal invitation. Yet, where someone nurses a grudge against you, you reap no good by going there. Shambhu expostulated with Sati in so many ways, but as fate had willed it, wisdom would not dawn on her. The Lord repeated once more that if she went to her father's place uninvited, he anticipated no good results from it. Having reasoned with her in ways more than one, when Hara at last perceived that the daughter of Daksha was not going to stay, the slayer of Tripura detailed a few of his principal attendants as her escort and sent her away. When Bhavani, etymologically the consort of Bhava, an epithet of Shiva, reached her father's house, no one greeted her for fear of incurring Daksha's displeasure. Her mother was the solitary figure who met her kindly. Her sisters received her with profuse smiles. Daksha would not even inquire about her health. He burnt all over with rage at the very sight of Sati. Sati then went to have a look at the sacrifice, but nowhere did he find any share of oblations set apart for Shambhu. Then did she realize the force of Shankara's warning. Her heart burnt within her at the thought of the insult offered to her Lord. The former grief, that of repudiation by her Lord, did not torment her heart so much as the great agony she now felt as a result of the insult offered to her husband. Although there are terrible agonies of various kinds in this world, the insult offered to one's own people is the most painful of them all. The thought of the same made Sati furious. Her mother tried to pacify her in many ways. The insult to Shiva was something unbearable. Her heart could not therefore be pacified. Then, sharply reproaching the whole assembly, she spoke in angry accents. Hear ye, elders of the assembly, and all great sages, all of you who have reviled Shankara or heard him reviled must forthwith reap the fruit of your sin, and my father too shall fully repent. Wherever you hear a saint, Shambhu or Vishnu, the Lord of Lakshmi, vilified, the rule is that if it lies within your power, you should tear out the tongue of the reviler, or you should run away closing your ears. The slayer of Tripura, the great Lord Shiva, is the universal spirit. He is the father of the universe and is beneficent to all. It is him that my stupid father vilifies, and this body of mine has sprung from the loins of Daksha. Therefore, installing in my heart Lord Shiva, who bears the moon on his forehead and a bull as his emblem, I shall immediately quit this body. As she spoke thus, she burnt her body with the fire of yoga. Footnote: fire produced by yogis through the friction of the vital airs within the body.
Just thinking about what you were asking before.
Yeah.
The name I was thinking of was Parvati.
Parvati.
So
You said it wasn't that though. Or were you
no,
saying Parvati?
no. So Sati
Yeah.
is Shiva's consort.
Yeah.
Up until the time when she burnt herself. Um, and then she becomes Parvati, I think, like is reborn from memory as Parvati, or yeah.
Right.
And so like Sati is like an aspect of Shakti. So you've got like Shiva, Shakti, and so
Mm-hmm.
they're all
Mm-hmm.
so Parvati and Sati and Bhavani are all aspects of the Shakti,
Mm.
that feminine power.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes.
Yeah.
Basically
So
Shiva's missing and then gets
yeah.
reborn and misses again.
Yeah. And so Sati is a name for another name for that.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like if you're not sort of, if you're not born into this or whatever,
Yeah.
like it's a lot to swallow and a lot to try and work out.
Yeah.
Okay, who's who? Why are all these different names? What do all these different names mean? So
Yeah. It is a lot.
I mean, there's hundreds of names for Shiva. It's
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
for instance, and they all mean different things, but they all point towards him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and so the same with like his consort, his partner is like, yeah, Sati, and then she is reborn again as Parvati. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like I just kind of like, I don't really get it, but okay. Like I get enough. So keeps me going. Um
And it's sort of
yeah.
that thing, isn't it, of like, how do I say it? It's like you can read something and understand it in a manner of the feeling realm
Yes.
without having to understand it in the intellectual realm.
Yes.
And then the more you read it, the more you understand it as well in the intellectual realm. But,
Yes. Yes.
but, but on first hearing it, you're like, oh, it touches me here somewhere, and I don't
Yeah.
quite understand
Yeah.
intellectually what that is. I can feel it. And then if you read it several times, you start
Yeah.
putting all the intellectual pieces together and go, oh, that's why I felt it here. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big reason in my intention of just reading it,
Mm,
even though I don't understand it.
mm,
It's
mm,
just letting it wash over and
mm.
slowly start like
Builds the picture
it's
slowly
like
up.
all the pieces of the puzzle are just kind of getting thrown a bit everywhere at the moment, but it's just like
Mm,
eventually it's just like, oh, those pieces go together, you know?
mm, mm.
Ah, that makes sense now.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Should I keep going?
Hey?
Should I keep going? What are you saying?
Um,
Probably been going for a while.
Probably might need to stop.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can. I just yeah, I'm up to page 75 here. Yeah. Use my bookmark.
Probably 28th of September.
Should I press stop on the recording?
Sure.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye, recorders. I don't know. That's not what you call people watching.
Audience.
But anyway, see ya.